Alright, the next example I want to use, I want to actually use images from the web. And for that I actually want to create a different page that will use images. And let's say that now I want to replace the content, or I want to replace Diego Armando Maradona, I want to replace the image. So in order to do it, we can just go into the page and let's go for a second and say search for images. Well, I want to use Messi as the best player ever instead of Maradona, so it's just a matter of finding the right image that we want to use. And actually what I can do, I can just drag and drop it directly into the page. Or even more, I can actually go select the old image and just replace the row. So for example, if I will drag the texture directly from here into the texture field, and that's it. You can see now that we have Lionel Messi in the graphics. Now I want to modify a little bit the texture because, well, it's not sitting that well. Still, there was a difference between the original image and the current image that we are using, and we have all the tools to do that. So for example, I can now first move the texture inside the object, and I can actually crop it as well from the left side. And well, pretty much that's it. We arrange the image, we can actually move it a little bit back to the center, and that's it. We used images from the web as part of our graphics in a very, very simple way. Now, one more thing that I want to talk about using this example is, let's say that I want to replace this image now with a live feed. So in order to do so, really, really simple, just click on the video column and you can select the video source that you want to use. So whether it's video SDI1, SDI2, depends on your configuration. However, if now I want to restore the original image, the Morpho doesn't override the information. So if I want to go back, I can just click original texture, and that's it. All the information is stored in the Morpho. Alright, so that's for this example. And the next example that I want to show is actually creating something from scratch manually. So I don't want to use pre-made designs from Photoshop. In order to do that, well, I can just use the primitives inside the Morpho. So double click on the rectangle, it appears on screen, and now I can modify it just by using the placement controls. Again, no need to know anything about axes, no need for previous experience in 3D applications. We can just work directly with the placement controls. Alright, the next thing I want to do, I want to use a texture for mask and for the image itself. And for that I have here the gradients, which comes as default as part of the application. Just by drag and drop, we add it to the file and the mask. And I want to change the color, and well, that's it. We actually created a very simple strip. Now I want to add, and actually what I want to achieve eventually, I want to achieve some kind of a clock, a race clock. So the next thing I want to use a 3D model as part of the graphics, and I have here Collada models. Collada is the 3D model type that Morpho supports. The extension is DAE, and it can be exported from 3D Max, Maya, and most of the commonly used 3D applications in the market. So we can just drag the 3D model straight into the scene, and you can see the model in here. Now, what you can notice that this is a real 3D model with textures, with details. And one more thing that you can see right now is that the light source actually arrives from the top left. So if I want to change that, this is again one of the benefits of the Morpho. I don't need to handle very complicated light rigs. I can just go to the page title, go to the lighting, set a different preset. So top mid, let's for instance use bottom left, and you can see the difference in the model. So let's use just top mid for this example. One more thing that you can see in this model is that we have here the list of all the textures that were used for this specific model. So now, for instance, if I want to replace part of the textures, I can do it internally from within the application. I don't need to go back to 3D Max or Maya in order to modify the model. So, for instance, if I want to replace or let's modify the horse logo, and let's say that I want to, I don't know, let's extend the contrast and reduce the saturation, making it black and white image. Save. You can see that the change took place, and now the front horse is black and white. Alright, so now what I want to do, I want to actually use it as part of my super or bug or clock bar. What you can see actually is that the Morpho is using a real 3D camera in order to display the graphics. Now, in some cases it's very useful. In some other cases it looks kind of weird. So what we can do, we can actually change the camera preset that we are using for this specific page. So, for example, instead of using a 3D camera, I can now work in 2D camera, which will be a lot easier for me to arrange my graphics according to. So let's reposition the car. We can actually even scale it up a little bit. And now I want to add a clock. So again, this is something that is really simple in the Morpho. We can just go to Insert, Counter, and I want to display time. Now we are unlimited in the amount of clocks, counters, timers that we want to use. So just a matter of positioning it, and we have here the preview button, and we can see the time running. Alright, so now what we did, we demonstrated creation from scratch using 3D models, using time. The last thing I want to talk about are charts, and again, let's open a new page for that. So in order to create a new page, I can either use a pre-made template that I used in the past, or I can just double click on an empty page and it's added to our storyboard. Double click, the page is open, and now we can add charts to it. Really simple. We support 4 different types of charts: bar chart, pie chart, line chart, and line area chart. And in order to use it, just drag, drop, and the table appears on screen. We can scale it up, and now you can actually see the content. And now we are working in 3D, so let's of course put it in 3D. Add some depth, click try, and you can see that it comes built in with the animation. Now we can either type manually the data in the chart. So for instance, I want to use 7, or I can actually use a data source as the data for this specific chart just by selecting a source. And here is sample numbers. This is a data source I created previously. For more information about data sources, please refer to the video clip talking about data sources. That's it. We can now change the profile. So for example, if I don't want it to be bars but cylinders, fine, no problem. If I want to change it to line graph, again, I can do it from the profile. And now it created the graph in this fashion. Or I can go to manual, and let's add a third set of data in here. So you can see it, of course, in 3D. We can reduce now the depth a little bit. We can control the gap between the lines. We can click the try. And again, it comes built in with the animation. The last type of chart I want to show is the pie chart. So again, just drag and drop into the scene. Again, let's scale it up a bit, rotate it in 3D, and we have different types of charts or different profiles for the pie chart. So from cylinder to donut and etc. So many different ways to present the graphics. I want to add a little bit of gap. And what I want now to do, I want to actually add textures and a legend on top of the chart. And this is really simple. So we can just go to series, use labels, done. Now it shows me the information that is typed in here. So for instance, if I want to replace it, just type whatever you want. Or I can display the values that I used for the chart and use them as the labels on top of the pie chart. Last thing I want to do, I want to actually replace the texture, and again for that I can just browse for whatever image that I want. And let's say that I have here, again let's use Leo Messi, and by default the texture is wrapping the 3D object. However, we can of course change that, so we have mapping options inside of the application. We don't need to go to Photoshop or 3D Max and try to modify the original texture. We can just play around with the mapping parameters. So the first thing I want to do, I want to scale it down a little bit, and let's move it in here, and just a matter of positioning the texture in the right way. Scale it a little bit vertically, and well, that's it, done. So really simple way to control textures, control the animation. Again, just click try and it's built in with the animation. Display the data, really simple way to work. That's it for now. We covered creation by using PSD files from Photoshop, creation by building using the default primitives that arrive with the Morpho. We covered charts, we covered video clips. I hope it gave you the information you needed. Thank you very much.